Oh, we're live. I didn't know we were. Okay, we are literally flying by the seat of our pants, and they are sweatpants today. Let's do a quick update. I'm Jeremy. Alex Van Halen has released his autobiography slash tribute to his brother Eddie. It's called Brothers, and so as you can imagine, that's generating news items. And so, two things that I reading or found from the Ultimate Classic Rock page today is very interesting. One of them is about the fact that Van Halen never really did a tribute tour after Eddie's death, which everyone was wanting. Now, Sammy Hagar basically did one. I mean, he was waiting for Van Halen to do something. You know, in Sammy's mind, the right way to do it, which I tend to agree, is you bring everyone back, right? You do a proper tribute with the original, right? Dave, Mike, and Alex, and then obviously they have to have a guitar player fill in. And then you have you have Dave play, you have Sammy play. Heck, bring Gary Sharon back. Let him sing a couple songs. Why not? You know, celebrate the whole career of Eddie, but that never happened. So Sammy did his best of all worlds, which was his way of a tribute to Eddie. Of course, Mike was in tow for that, and Joe Satriani came in to play guitar. Now, this is what's interesting because Alex says the reason that an official Van Halen tribute tour never happened was Dave. Dave was the reason. But there's some interesting things in here. And so apparently what was happening, and here's what this was a weird thing that we all heard a year or two ago, that Jason Newsted was approached by Alex to be part of this tribute tour. And the idea was it would be Newsted on bass, David Lee Roth, and Joe Satriani on guitar. So the first thing that jumps out is nothing against Jason Newsted. He's great. Why would you have Jason do it and not Mike? Mike's alive. Mike's still play. Why? That just is a head scratcher, number one. Obviously, there is bad blood between Alex and Sam. I mean, no one really talks about the bad blood, but it appears that that's the case. Tucker says, would Wolfgang Van Halen play guitar for Van Halen? Well, you know what? For a tribute, that would have been awesome. It would have been awesome. Maybe if he didn't do the whole show, but we've all seen the clips of him playing Panama and other Van Halen. Dude, he could totally do it as a tribute. You know, why not? Why wouldn't you do that? But so the first shocker is that Alex would have reached out to Newsted and not Mike. That just seems weird. But here's what Alex says, quote, the thing that broke the camel's back, and I can be honest about this now, was I said, Dave, at some point we have to have a very overt, not a bowing, but an acknowledgement of Ed in the gig. If you look at how Queen does it, they show footage, of Freddie, right? And the moment I said, we got to acknowledge Ed, Dave effing popped a fuse. The vitriol that came out was unbelievable. And Alex obviously did not take that too kindly. Alex says, quote, I'm from the street. You talk to me like that, MFer, I'm going to beat your effing brains out. You got it? And I mean that. And that's how it ended. So that was the end of that. But another weird thing, it's a tribute for Ed. Why would Dave have a problem with them actually making it a tribute to Ed, which is what it sounds like? So it's just really weird. He does say that he still keeps in touch with Roth, but it left him bewildered. Quote, it's just, my God, it's like I didn't know him anymore. I have nothing but the utmost respect for his work ethic and all that. But Dave, you got to work as a community, MFer. It's not you alone anymore, end quote. Um, he says, quote, "It's too bad on one hand that it didn't work out. It's too bad on one hand, but it's fine on the other, because now in retrospect, playing the old songs is not really paying tribute to anybody. That's just like a jukebox, in my opinion. To find a replacement for Ed, it's just not the same." End quote. Um, so that's, it is what it is. But that's, he says the reason there was never an official from the Van Halen camp, an official Van Halen tribute to Ed, was because of David Lee Roth. Tucker says, did David Lee leave Van Halen because of the music rights with the record companies? I don't know. I don't know. That's a very good question. I'm not sure. But there's also other things coming out as a result of Alex's book. One of those, again, this also from Ultimate Classic Rock, they've considered a number of different singers over the years, right? And we'd heard, one of the singers that was considered for a while was Patti Smythe. Remember that? Patti Smythe of Scandal? That would have been interesting. But what this little article mentions today are two that I'd never heard associated with Van Halen, and that is Ozzy Osbourne and Chris Cornell. Can you imagine Ozzy with Van Halen? I don't know how that would have worked, to be honest. Chris Cornell, I could totally see that working, and that might have been pretty cool. But according to this article, in approximately 2001, singerless Van Halen eyed Osbourne. Both Alex and Eddie met with him and Sharon to discuss a potential album with Ozzy as lead singer. Quote, "When you get a dog, you don't expect it to be a cat," Alex recently told Rolling Stone. "When you get an Ozzy, you get Ozzy. Play the music, he'll sing, and it's going to be great." But that didn't happen, obviously. Ozzy says, quote, "Yes, we were discussing it. It is something that, if it had come to fruition, would have been phenomenal. Eddie and Alex were great friends of mine for a very long time, and it's a regret of mine that we never got it together. The Osbournes got in the way of creating new music at that time, unfortunately." So he says that's the reason that he didn't do it. But then Alex says that Chris Cornell seemed like a solid option at one point. Vocally, that would have been really cool, because I think he could have done both eras. He could have done the Sam and the Dave, and I think that would have been pretty cool. He says Cornell seemed like a solid option at one point, though he wasn't. Alex couldn't recall actually jamming with Cornell. He says, quote, "Chris was in a very fragile part of his life, so to speak. I got behind the drums and he started playing bass. We played for 45 minutes. This MFer got so into it, he started bleeding. I said, 'This is the man you want.' And then he died." So he passed away. Of course, in the end, Sammy Hagar rejoined the band for a few years. So remember, Sammy came back and did that ill-fated reunion tour in, was it 2003 or 2004? I saw it. I've talked about it. I wish they hadn't done it. It was terrible. Okay. I have seen Van Halen 3 times. I saw him on Diver Down with Dave. I saw him on For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge with Sam. And then I saw the reunion with Sam in 2004. I think it was 2004. It was terrible. Eddie was not good. You could they're just there. It was a bad vibe. It wasn't. I wish they hadn't done that tour. So it is what it is, right? Alex says Van Halen's 1974 to 85 lineup was the one. That was the irreplaceable one. He says, quote, "The heart and the soul and the creativity and the magic was Dave, Ed, Mike, and me," end quote. And all the more reason for me to be flummoxed as to why they were going to bring Jason Newsted in instead of Mike. And it could be that Mike was so entrenched with Sam. I don't know. I don't know all the details. It just seems weird. It just seems a weird thing. I'm interested to read the whole book because I think that'll be kind of cool to check out. Queen, let's talk about Queen. Queen hasn't released an album in more than 15 years, an album of new material. I mean, there have been various releases, but they haven't released an album of new material in more than 15 years. But according to Roger Taylor, the drummer, that could change soon. He says, I think we might. This is Taylor talking to Uncut. Quote, Brian and myself were talking the other day, and we both said that if we feel we have some good material, why not? We can still play, we can still sing, so I don't see why not. Now, one of the things that's almost been forgotten, but it was really cool, and you can go watch a full concert of it on YouTube. It's when they teamed up with Paul Rodgers in 2008. So they kind of had that thing going. It was some cool stuff. Imagine Paul Rodgers, one of the great classic rock vocalists, obviously very different than Freddie, but surprisingly, he sounded really good on several of the songs. Remember I Want It Now, the Queen song, I Want It Now, mid to late 80s. He was around 87, 88, something like that. He sounds awesome. It sounds awesome. I mean, I like the version with Paul Rodgers better than it's really good. Other things sounds kind of weird. But that was an interesting thing. Well, of course, they've been touring with Adam Lambert since 2011. So they've done several tours with him. And Adam Lambert's a great singer. It's great. So I think it'd be kind of cool if they roll out some new music. Brian May mentioned in 2021, quote, we have dabbled a little. He's talking about with new music. It is just that you haven't heard any of it. It would have to be something so special that we would feel we would want to launch it on the public. Lambert says the idea of filling in for Mercury, he says, it's a lot of pressure if you think about it. If they're going to put something out that's new, it's got to be at a certain level. It has to be the right thing. And I've always said, is it appropriate for me to be doing new material? I feel like it scares me, end quote. So anyways, stay tuned. We may be seeing new material from Queen. I'm all for it. I think it's great. A few items from the mailbag. You can email us anytime, classicguitarrock@mail.com, classicguitarrock@mail.com. So one really short one. Oh, I didn't even put the person's name. Oh gosh. I copy and paste the emails and put them here. So my apologies, but I got one email that says, found you last night on the evil that is Twitter. Can't believe it's taken me this long to catch up. Effing fantastic in every way, shape, and form. Bless you for doing the work of the angels. Well, that's awesome. That is great. And my apologies for not having your name there. Sorry. But then we've got another email. This is one of our biggest supporters from Lauren. Thank you very much, Lauren. Lauren says, hey, Jeremy, this is referring to something we mentioned yesterday. So let me back up a little. One of the things we're talking about, and in fact, I even have reached out to some record companies. And I'll just be honest. Well, let me tell you about what the idea was. The idea is we want to do a show on the radio station that is playing new music from legacy artists. So I mentioned yesterday, Frontiers Music, they have Journey, they have Blue Oyster Cult, they have Def Leppard, they have Saxon. I mean, all kinds of, I think Styx on there too. I don't know. Tons of legacy bands continue to put out music, and a lot of it's really good. But it doesn't go to radio. So the only place you can hear it is if you happen to see Frontiers YouTube channels. And I just have to say it, as much as I like their product, Frontier does not do a good job of promoting it. They just don't. They're based in Italy. They don't support tours. They don't. So you really got to look for it or depend on the individual band's websites or whatever to promote their new albums. So what I said, we're going to do a show where we play new music from these legacy bands. And then I said, I'm also okay playing new music from new bands that kind of are in the classic rock, melodic rock vein. I think that would be awesome. A regular weekly show or whatever. Or maybe we even add it to the rotation if there's new music that comes from legacy bands. Why not? You can do whatever you want when it's your radio station, right? So this is what this email from Lauren is about. Lauren says, hey, Jeremy, I love the idea of playing new music from classic rock bands and new bands that are guitar-based rock. I can't wait to see where this goes. The Fix have been releasing an album every few years. I think their latest studio album isn't great, but Beautiful Friction, Want That Life, and Elemental were all awesome. Please stick with The Symbol Remains from Blue Oyster Cult. Please stick with The Symbol Remains from Blue Oyster Cult. I think there's a word missing. Please stick with The Symbol Remains from BOC. Do many great songs. Ghost Stories was released Under Pressure from Frontiers, and I'm sad to say sucks. The only BOC album I'll ever own. But these live sets from the first two albums are great as well, with Secret Treaties coming up next year, or so I'm told. Secret Treaties, probably my favorite BOC album. It's a great album. I love Fire of Unknown Origin. That's a great album too. Robbie Krieger from The Doors has a new album out. Robbie Krieger and the Soul Savages. I've seen some video clips and I love it. All instrumental grooves. You'll hear some Doors style riffs for sure. I am very impressed with Krieger still tearing it up in his own style in the year 2024. I always enjoy the show. Keep on rocking, Lauren. Lauren's over on the other side of the state. Thanks, Lauren. Appreciate it so much. And my friend Will, it's your show. Ha. It is my show. It's my show. It's my radio station. I can play whatever I want, Will, and you can't stop me. Neener. Will, of course, one of my very best friends who's not allowed to talk on this show, but he can chime in and say hello. Thank you, Will. So those two email messages, I want to thank Lauren for the email and thank all of you for your support, for tuning in, for listening. Again, you can always email us at classicguitarrock@mail.com. And let me finish with the plug. If you aren't doing it, our listenership on the radio station slowly but surely is increasing. But if you haven't listened yet, by all means, take time, check it out. Go to the website, classicguitarrock.com, classicguitarrock.com. You can link right to the podcast or the radio station from there. Please check it out. See what you think. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll do it all again later. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye.